I've begun the research phase for a new series. I'm planning haunted houses and graveyards and more supernatural elements. And as such, I've compiled a list of places I want to visit for inspiration. One of the stops along the way is Ellwood House in Dekalb, Illinois. While this house is not purported to be haunted, it is a fabulous mansion that provides full access to the house, except for one small portion where the caretaker lives. At one point in time, Elwood House bred Percheron stallions. The stables were later converted to a garage for the chauffeur, and that building now serves as the visitor center. Inside the visitor center, you are given the history of the family and how they made their fortune with barbed wire. In fact, the high school athletic teams are the Barbs. Also outside the mansion, you'll find an old water tower, which is the only remaining structure from when they bred the horses. Beside the visitor center is the Little House. It was originally built as a contractor's model and parade float, but one of the Ellwoods bought it as a playhouse for his children. It's a small Victorian house, completely furnished, and for those who take the house tour, you can go inside the Little House too. As you walk toward the main house, you'll pass another place, the Museum House, which was built for one of the ladies of the manor to store her collectibles. We weren't able to tour that, but they say it's the souvenirs collected during her travels. The collection includes objects such as war relics, early patterns of china, and minerals. The Elwood grandchildren referred to the building as the Curiosity Shop. There are two additional Tudor-style houses that were constructed for Elwood children when they got married. My husband and I booked a tour of the main house, and as luck would have it, we were the only people on the tour, which meant we got customized information. Our guide was knowledgeable and helpful, and one of the best parts about visiting Elwood House was we got to see the entire house, with the exception of the caretaker's quarters. As you walk in the double front door, the entrance hall divides the mansion into two halves. It's like walking into a Clue game. The walls are lined with wood paneling and portraits and a grandfather clock. The first room to the right is the library. Inside are bookcases and a large wooden desk in front of a fireplace. Each room has its own fireplace. The next room is the dining room, furnished with a sideboard and a large table. Bowed windows were added to the house later and curve out over the portico. There is also display cases where a collection of porcelain knickknacks were displayed. We passed the caretaker's quarters, straight to the end of the hall and past the main staircase, to the conservatory, complete with statuary and plant life. On the other side of the entrance hall are the parlor and the music room, which have been made into one big room. At the music room end, there's a harp and a piano, along with other furniture. And on the parlor end, there's a sofa beside the fireplace and a statue in the corner. The ceiling is something to behold on its own, a sectioned patchwork that brightens the room. The terrace opens off the parlor, and at one end, an addition was built that housed a playroom for the children. The main staircase curls upward, with a large statue light fixture at the base of the stairs, and a niche in the wall for a small statue. If you look up, you'll see a stained glass skylight overhead. On the second floor landing, before you round the bend to the hallway, there's a pulpit overlooking the entrance hall, and stained glass windows behind. The second floor hallway leads to the family bedrooms, which are decorated to the style of the last occupants of the house. One of them is in a chinoise style. The bedroom that belonged to the matriarch has a porcelain doll on the settee in front of the fireplace, apparently the only doll remaining. The story goes when she was a child, her brother tortured her by sending her dolls out the window where they would crash to the terrace below. For those of you who have seen horror movies with porcelain dolls, yes, this is where the nightmare begins. A back hallway takes you to the servants' quarters and the servants' staircase. There's an old-fashioned intercom system built in that connects with the cook's quarters. There's also a nanny suite, complete with sick room for when the children are ill. The ballroom is on the third floor, as was the custom back in the day, along with storage space. While it isn't as ornate as you might imagine in, say, a castle, it is a large room with a small stage and plenty of room for guests to mingle. From there, we went to the basement, which was where the servants spent most of their time. The kitchen was there originally, including an icebox and a dumbwaiter. The servants' dining room, the laundry room with multiple hand-crank washing machines, and sinks and cabinets all along one of the walls. Did I mention the ironing boards? In one room, we found the cistern that collected rainwater. In the storage area, they had steamer trunks, and we also found a secret room dating back to Prohibition, when they kept the booze. The house was beautiful. Around the light fixtures in the ceiling, gas before they were converted to electric, were intricate hand-painted designs, as well as at the tops of the walls and the hallways. The light fixtures were each unique too. The curved staircase wall that led from the second floor to the third floor had floral designs that were in the process of being restored. I was impressed that we got to see the whole house. Nothing about the house screamed ghosts to me, although certainly it lent itself to a writer's imagination, and the guy did say you didn't want to be caught in the house after dark. What did jump out at me was outside the house. There's a patch of woods with a path that leads to a neighboring cemetery. Beyond the daffodils and bluebells lies a church, and beside the church, Oakwood Cemetery. Living high in the trees above the cemetery, bird watchers can find two horned owls. The cemetery predates the house and is not part of the property, although there are stories of the family trying to annex and later buy the land, but the cemetery refused. The thing that jumped out at me? There was a grave marker in the cemetery that belongs to a sailor lost at sea in the Bermuda Triangle. Dozens of graves date back to the 1860s, but that one in particular spoke to me. I'm picturing my first book in the new series at this location and imagining the story that goes along with it. The mystery of the Bermuda Triangle intrigues me, even though my initial research shows a reasonable explanation for what happened to that lost ship. I've seen enough movies and read enough stories that I already have my own theory as to what happened to that young man. A story I can't wait to share with you. Stay tuned for my visit to the San Filippo estate.